Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at Phoenix. So starting with his abilities left to right. The first one is Blaze, 200 credits to purchase, C to cast, equip a flame wall. Fire to create a line of flame that moves forward, creating a wall of fire that blocks vision and damages players passing through it. Hold fire to bend the wall in the direction of your crosshair. So I'll go and hit C, and now when I left click, it's going to throw a wall of fire up that completely blocks line of vision. I can't see through it. However, I can shoot through it, so be careful of that. And this wall of fire damages both your teammates and your enemies. Although it is at a reduced damage for your teammates, just keep that in mind when you're casting the wall. So the cool thing about this wall is that beyond doing damage over time, it also will heal me. So if you take a look at the bottom left hand side with where my health points are, you'll notice that healing box. So if you take an opponent out, make sure to sit in the fire to regenerate your HP if you're below 100. So a cool thing about this firewall is that I can bend it. So what I'm going to do is when I shoot mouse 1 or click mouse 1, it's going to shoot the wall out. And I'm going to continue to hold mouse 1 and then flick my crosshair and aim where I want that wall to bend. So let's go ahead and just shoot one straight. And I'm going to move my mouse to the right. And you see it curves towards where I'm aiming that crosshair. So it can go left, it can go right. It can also be a drastic curve if I want. So the more I flick my mouse or flick my crosshair, the more it'll curve. So as soon as I click mouse 1, if I do a heavy flick to the right, it accentuates that curve there. So it's a great ability to use or great feature of this firewall because I can block off angles without exposing myself. For example, if we're advancing here on the C site and we're trying to block off this garage entrance, if I don't have this curve, what I'll have to do is peek out like this and find a lineup, which leaves me exposed to this very common spot. But since I can bend the wall, I can click mouse 1 and then curve around to the right, and then it blocks off that garage area. Phoenix's second ability, Curve Ball, 100 credits to purchase each one, Q to cast, equip a flare orb that takes a curving path and detonates shortly after throwing. Fire to curve the flare orb to the left, detonating and blinding any player who sees the orb. Alternate fire to curve the flare orb to the right. So when I hit Q, it's going to bring up these little fireball flashbangs that I can throw. So you'll notice below my crosshair there's a left curve and a right curve. If I click mouse 1, it curves to the left. If I click mouse 2, curves to the right. And you'll notice that there's a specific curvature to it, and that's consistent every time. So if you know the distance, we can go ahead and try to maximize this. So if I'm too close to that edge, see it got stuck there. If I move a little bit forward, then that flash pops right around that curve. So what that does, it gives reduced time for opponents to turn away. For example, if I'm really close to the edge and then I curve around the corner, well, that's going to give them a lot more time to turn away because that flashbang is, the trajectory of it is more dodgeable. So like all flashbangs in the game, you can turn away from it to mitigate the flash. And if I'm looking directly at it, it's going to flash me even longer. So another way to use this flashbang or this curve to your advantage is beyond throwing it on a very even or horizontal level, you can aim it upwards. So if I aim up, it'll flash over that box, vice versa, right click. So this is very useful to trick your opponents or throw the flashbangs in a different angle where they're not expecting. Whereas this one here, say if I'm opponents on the other side of the box, their crosshair's placed right here. So if a flashbang's popping up on this angle, they won't have time to turn away from it. Phoenix's third ability, Hot Hands, E to cast by default, equip a fireball. Fire to throw a fireball that explodes after a set amount of time or upon hitting the ground, creating a lingering fire zone that damages enemies. So this is a very straightforward ability. I'll click E here, and it's a little fireball that I can throw. You'll notice that there's a trajectory drop to it, and wherever the fireball lands, it's going to create this area effect damage. So anyone, again, either teammates or the enemy, they will take damage, so be careful where you throw that. And just like the firewall, this Hot Hands fireball ability will heal me too. So you'll look in the bottom left hand side, I've got that healing box. So again, if you take an opponent out, say if you throw a little hot hand right here, bank one off that box, take an enemy out, you can heal up if you have health points to regenerate. Another thing to note about this ability is that there's a cooldown to it. So let me just shoot one up in the air here. You'll notice after a few seconds, it's going to drop down immediately. So you can't just throw fireballs across the entire map. So a cool thing is you can use this to your ability. So let's say if we want to try to drop a fireball behind that box, if we have a lineup in mind, you can throw the fireball and then it shoots down and directly hits where you need it to. Alright, so let's take a look at Phoenix's ultimate. Run it back, Z to cast by default. Instantly place a marker at Phoenix's location. While this ability is active, dying or allowing the timer to expire will end this ability and bring Phoenix back to its location with full health. What this is basically you're creating a clone or a replica of your character at that moment, and when you click Z, it's going to leave a marker here. So I'm going to hit Z, and you'll notice there's a cooldown at the bottom. And when that cooldown expires, or if this clone gets killed, you will just spawn back to your marker. Okay, so we'll go ahead and cast it again. And all the abilities that I have while I activate this ultimate, I can also use. So I can click Q and play this like any other character. Flash over here, use my E ability. Any abilities that I still have when I cast the ultimate is usable. So very, very powerful ultimate. You can get a lot of great information, both offensive, defensive side. You know, you can bait this clone, send him in first, figure out where the opponents are. And another cool thing is that you can also plant the spike. So I'm going to go ahead and just cast another replica here. And you'll notice I have the orange dot in the radar in the top left, and that means I have the spike. Click the ultimate, and as long as I don't get killed, or as long as the cooldown's up, I can actually plant the spike. So I'm not going to finish it here, but you get the point. And conversely, if I'm on the defensive side, you can also defuse the spike as long as that cooldown is still up and as long as you're not eliminated. So let's say they plant the spike here in B. I use my ultimate, and then my teammates are covering me. I can actually start defusing. So super strong ability. Again, it's an exact clone and replica of your character in that moment of time that you can play exactly like you would in a normal game.